Okay, so as I said earlier, Donna probably could give this presentation, given that one of the first things I did was create a steering committee for this hub. So this early phase has really been about developing an implementation plan. It's really been trying to work through the budget, Gantt chart, all of those sort of stuff. So the steering committee has been formed, and Donna graciously agreed to be part of that. And I thought that was very important because we have two people from the Department of Education, Skills and Employment, and that's Linda Arnold, who's the Director of Research Strategy and Analysis, and Martin Fuller, who's the Assistant Director. So that was good on a federal perspective, but to have that that more local state representation, having Donna, having that network in the area is vitally important. So thank you, Donna, for doing that. We also have Valerie Linton, who's the Executive Dean on the at the University for the Faculty of Engineering and Information Sciences, and myself. And we actually met earlier this week to progress a number of things. So a lot's happened since we signed that condition of grant on the 30th of March, and I was actually reflecting on how much has happened given that we've had COVID. There's just been really, it's been difficult to progress things, but even so, we've managed to do a fair bit. And pleasingly, we met all the initial milestones, and the first tranche of $500,000 arrived the other day. And on the first pay run after July, we'll receive another 500,000. So money's not an issue at this stage. So there's probably, most people there would know that we've secured the premises. We are locating the hub at the UOW Shoalhaven campus, which is fantastic. And we did identify a number of other sites that we potentially could use, but that was the best of the four options that we explored. And the area itself is where the Shoalhaven Marine and Freshwater Centre was located, and that was under the leadership of Pia Winberg. So the area is actually the ground floor of building 304, which is the graduate medicine building. And that's great area because it's got a separate entrance, it's got a service road, it's equipped with a lot of the stuff that we require in terms of ancillary services. It's got sufficient floor space, which is great. And there's a small area for staff, there's a little storeroom, and there's an area that we can use for AR, VR stuff. So it's modern, and it's got a really good lecture theatre above it. So that's going to be really helpful for hosting industry events and presentations. So with that, that's been selected. That also means that we don't have to do a lot of fit out and strip out work, and so more of the money can go into the programs that we want to deliver for the hub. The other important part of that is that's the first time that engineering and information sciences and all the faculties are going to be represented on that campus, and so I think that is fantastic, and that gives us a beachhead into really spreading engineering and information sciences in the region. So that's I think a really terrific thing. So, and we hope to develop that further. And I think it's also fitting that, you know, it's quite close to the aviation and defence industry precincts, the campus, which is terrific, but it doesn't exclude other sectors such as agribusiness. And I think it's really fitting that we're actually in the previous building, location that was occupied by the Marine and Freshwater Centre. So that's a terrific thing. Okay, so I'll come back to what we're doing in terms of fit out and equipment and all the rest shortly. But the next part that was very important was that we actually identify and engage operational staff to get things moving. And so basically on signing the condition of grant, I appointed two members of my team and myself to 50% of our time to work on this initiative. And it's quite a tough schedule to get through because we did ask for the project over a 2-year period originally, and it's been compressed to just over 1 year. So that's really made things quite tight. So I've written a number of position descriptions, and they've now been accepted by HR as being comprehensive. So the next stage is recruitment, and I'm just currently determining who's going to be on recruitment panels and stuff like that. So I'm hoping in the next week or two that we'll be able to advertise those roles, and I'd be very interested if some of the networks that everyone here has, please spread the word, because I'd be very keen to get someone from the area, maybe someone who's been recently displaced due to the downturn in jobs, or it could be that they're just very interested in this. The roles I've had to put out are 1-year appointments. I've asked the department if that's okay, and they've said yes, they think that's fine to do so. Sorry, that's my dog barking at the wheelie bins out the front. So yeah, I think that's going to be important. You may have heard in the news that there's the university sector is having a number of issues with international students being turned away, and enrolment numbers being down. So Wollongong is not immune to that, and there's been a number of financial measures imposed, but because this funding is externally provided, none of those measures affect the hub, which is really great news. The other thing that I am trying to do is, my team is currently an all-male team, and one of the things I've been talking to HR about is I'd really like to see some diversity and a bit of gender mix in the team. So I encourage women to also apply. And I think that's also important as we do outreach activities. It would be really nice for students to be able to see some role models going around to the schools and other fairs. So for me, that's the highest priority, recruiting and getting resources so we can really push things along. I've also been really busy in building a website, and I am told I will have a splash page ready by the end of this week. On that, there will be some general information on the hub. There'll also be some contact details, and also an ability to sign up to a mailing list using MailChimp, so we can provide people information on what's happening. That's the first stage. Then by the end of July, I've asked IT to also develop an online visitor sign-on book, and how we manage inductions for the makerspace, and also to allow for a COVID declaration. So that's going to happen. And look, because we're an Industry 4.0 hub, although I do like leather-bound visitor books and fountain pens, we're trying to move away from that and really try to show Industry 4 technology. So we want to go online as much as possible. We're also looking at QR technology for all the equipment, so people can go up with their phone and just scan that QR code, they'll get information on how to use that piece of equipment. And it also allows us to track usage of it coming in, coming out of the facility, how much that equipment is being used, all of those sort of things. The other part that what we did was, just before we made the official announcement, down on the Super Dinner Gala event on the 26th of February, we did a point cloud scan of the facility, and we've done a number since then, and we've stitched all them together. So we've got a really good model now, 3D model of the facility. And from that, we've created a number of 2D drawings of where we want to put the equipment, benching, all that sort of stuff. And our ultimate aim is to be able to have the system so that people remote can actually go online and they can actually walk through the facility and see it in an online space. And it'll be fantastic if we can get to a point where we can put on AR, VR goggles on as well, so they can actually get that whole experience through the facility. Okay, so in terms of actual work happening, so on Monday we have plumbers and carpenters arriving to the site, and one of the main things that we need to do is we need to build one partial wall, and also we need to build a false floor just to be able to take all the sparks from the welding to make sure that it's fire resistant. And so there's a bit of work there. There's some GPOs to go in, some TV screens mounted, rerouting of cables and floor drains and additional 3-phase power. So that's a piece of work, and that's going to take a little bit of time, and we're working through all the WHS considerations there. Facilities management have advised that the work actually can proceed as development permitted without consent. We have an exemption under section 4.1 of the SEP for educational establishments and childcare facilities. So that's great news, as we don't need a DA, as the use of the facility is essentially what was under the original DA. So that's great news. So as I said, that's going to take some time, but we have another area for AR, VR, which really doesn't require much work at all. And so we have been busy purchasing all that equipment, and it all has different lead times. And we want to get that up and running as soon as possible, so we can actually do a soft launch. And in terms of 3D printers, we've had people who have also said that they're very keen to run workshops to show people how they operate. So I'm really hoping, even though we live in a COVID environment, that we'll be able to get a number of people into that space physically. If that's not possible, we may have a small number of people and just run multiple workshops. So that's a great thing. And as we're complying with all our procurement processes and refining our quotes and that, we're actually making some quite significant savings. So that's great news, because we can put that extra money into either into new programs, extend the whole project out further, which is my preference, to keep this project going as long as possible. So I don't think money is going to be an issue with this, and the department are very, very happy for us to do a review middle of the year, and also to keep this program going as long as possible. So UOW's recently introduced short courses, and one of those short courses is the introduction to the Internet of Things, and that's obviously part of Industry 4.0. And the first course is actually, it's online, it's a real-time course. It runs from July the 20th to the 31st over 2 weeks on Mondays, Wednesdays and Friday mornings from 9 to 12:30. And that's the sort of offering that I like to see being delivered down at the hub. And so again, that at the moment it is online. That course, the prerequisite is a basic knowledge of computing science and programming, but it is not required, it's not essential. And I would hope by the end of this project that we would be able to offer an introduction to Industry 4.0 course, which encompasses Internet of Things down at the hub. So there's also been a number of different engagements and collaborations, and one of the things I asked Donna to pass on was information about the Smarter Regions CRC, which she did, which is fantastic. And as a result of that, I've had a few inquiries, and for example, IT Basecamp, which some of you would know, in Huskisson, they've completed the partner declaration saying that they'll actively support and participate if that bid gets up. But I think it's a great opportunity for others in the region to be involved over time, and let's hope that gets up. So also I've been talking for a fair time with Mallory, and they've been desperate to get some computing science people, full-time, permanent residents, to start work in their team. That hasn't been happening. I've put out all my feelers to recent graduates and across the university network, and didn't have much success. So I put them in touch with a company in Illawarra, which are very innovative, do some fantastic stuff, and they've entered into an arrangement, and they're doing some fantastic work in terms of assisting them with anomaly detection. And they've just very recently, I've been told that they've been able to converge their software and their detection from about 2 hours down to about 6 minutes. And so, the end game is to get this down into seconds and milliseconds. So that's really fantastic, and that partnership has really blossomed. All right.
Sorry, Paul, I've got some questions. If you
yep, sure.
To address those at the moment. So Grant's just asked, have you got any idea of what the first project might be?
First project. No. One of the, and that's why I desperately need the business development manager to come on board. There's a number of inquiries that are coming in from people. There's in terms of artificial intelligence. Again, this is a defence one. We are putting in there was a request for information that closed last year for companies that had capability in artificial intelligence. That closed, but then it reopened because they realised that a number of people didn't apply because they didn't have defence, didn't have necessarily the clearances to do that work, so they didn't apply. So they opened it up, and then we've also been approached to submit our capabilities on artificial intelligence to be able to assist companies such as Mallory to be able to conduct more work in the electronic warfare space. So there's a few things in the pipeline. I think also if the CRC for Smarter Regions gets up, there'll be some opportunities there. In terms of projects, one of the things I think what will happen just organically will be, as we show people the technology that we can demonstrate, that's where I think the opportunities are, where people can actually see and go, oh, actually, I can apply that. We've just placed an order for a $75,000 handheld scanner. So we've got large scanners to do buildings and stuff like that, but these little handheld scanners, you're able to very, very accurately reverse engineer components, and so that opens a whole heap of opportunities in terms of if someone's got a wear area, or if they need to repair that. There's a whole heap of stuff there, and I think once we do that and show what's possible, that'll open things up.
I've got a whole heap of questions coming in thick and fast. Are you happy to continue with the questions?
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that leads us on. You just spoke about some equipment. Donna's just asked if you can tell us a bit more about the equipment or the capabilities that the hub will have.
Yep. So that was, and that was part of the implementation plan, where we took a long time to sort through what we wanted to get, because what we wanted to do was, we just didn't want to go and say, okay, well, Air Affairs have got this type of 3D printer and we get the same, and all the schools have got this, we get the same. We wanted to differentiate. We also wanted to differentiate with the equipment that we have in the FIF already, because that's available to all the stakeholders. Also the maker spaces at Wollongong and at the Innovation Campus have got some equipment. So we went through all that. The sort of equipment that we are focusing on is cobalt welding systems. So that's quite an expensive unit, and there's a long lead time on that. So we've placed orders for that, and cobalt welding systems, basically, it's an industrial robot, but you're taking the robot out of the cage, essentially, so you can work collaboratively with humans and machine, and that's Industry 4.0. We've got a plasma cutter coming. We've got a whole heap of safety equipment coming, a little CNC laser profile cutter, a small industrial robot, a number of 3D printers, some fiber ones, a Mark Forge one where you can actually have different type of materials, and so you can layer it up and have different properties of that part that you can produce. Faro projectors, that's for building scanning and doing point cloud scans. Handheld scanners. There's a lot of software and for reverse engineering as well. Some pretty fancy camera systems, stereo camera systems. We're also even looking at a drone mounted scanner. There's also a factory in a box. A factory in a box is, I don't know if anyone can see that. No, you can't see that. But factory in a box is basically, it's just a little box which you can take around to companies. Defence Material Technology Centre have really been pushing that. And then you can actually show them how the Internet of Things and how you can connect up sensors to your equipment and show how you can do different things. If I take my Mini, I've got two Minis actually, an older one and a new one. But my Mini it doesn't actually say in the book when the servicing is required. You basically, it recognizes how many times you hit the brake and change gears and how many kilometers you do, and then it will tell you when a service is done. And that's where things are moving to. If you run low on oil, it will go into limp mode and say you can't drive more than 80 kilometers an hour and take it for service. So it's actually making decisions. It's stuff that I can't override, and so the factory in the box allows people to sort of see those technologies occur. There's a whole heap of equipment that we dealt with the smart infrastructure people at Wollongong, and that's all around LoRaWAN and So the LoRaWAN system is it's a low energy network system, wide area network system that connects into the things. I think it's called the things network, and so just trying to find some information on that. Yep. So with that, there's been a program that's been running for, there was some federal government funding over the last couple of years for the Smarter Schools program, and we have someone in the School of Education at Wollongong who's been driving that, and what the schools do, that the students actually make little sensors, they connect it up to the Internet of Things, they look at the data, they analyze that, they communicate that, and there is an international the Things network. So that's global. There's thousands of gateways which connects millions of people. And so Sarah Howard is the person, and she's very keen to continue the program with the schools. So she's hoping that we can run another workshop in the fourth quarter. And she's very well connected with the federal and state government. And so she says it's very easy for her to get schools involved. And so we are looking to run one in the Shoalhaven. And the good thing about that is that that successful program already exists in the Illawarra, and I think also Kiama High are involved, but we can extend that. And so we can build on the shoulders of that program. So that's going to be really helpful. So we've got a whole heap of different sensors, you know, humidity sensors and temperature sensors and a whole heap of stuff. And we've also made an allowance to have a gateway put in at the UAW campus so that we can rely on that rather than having to enter into agreements with other gateways. I think Shoalhaven Water's got a gateway, and there are others, but it will simplify it, and it'd be great to have one on the campus because these gateways have got quite an extensive reach, so that will cover a fair area, which will be great. And then there's a whole heap of high-tech equipment, like in terms of computing. Just one graphics card for the VR AR. Just a graphic card is $5,000. So some of the computers that we are buying, they're in the $10,000 mark, $15,000 mark. So that's all coming, and then there's a whole heap of support stuff as well. Small educational robots. So there's about $1 million worth of equipment that is currently being procured.
That's exciting. I've got so many questions, but we've only got 5 minutes left. So I think you've already addressed some of the questions were around, will the facility have an element which involves local schools and students? And Bowden asked that question, and Holly also said that she's sure that the schools in the Shoalhaven would be absolutely thrilled to get on board. Bowden asked the question around how will businesses book the makerspace, and will they have to pay for it? And if the facility is charging businesses for the use of the space or for assistance within their own facilities, is there a possibility for the hub to extend its time frame?
Yeah, so we've had this discussion. So what we want to do is we want to make this free for people to use the facility as much as possible. If a company wanted to see some of the, even the 3D printers, some of these spools of consumables are a couple $100. Now, if a company said, we want to test something small on that, we're not going to charge for that sort of stuff. If someone wanted to do something really, really comprehensive, we'll do like some of the other maker spaces and say, oh, look, can you contribute for some of this stuff and sort of manage it on a case by case basis. the idea would be that we can actually move from demonstrating and doing a little bit of a prototype to a bigger project, and then that's when we would enter into contracts, and then that gives us the ability to extend, so bringing in revenue. Then we'll have real projects where we will sign them up. We will use Advantage SME and try to get funding where possible, and actually do commercial research with those organisations. But mostly we want this to be a completely free service, and we'll be also buying kits for the schools. So these sensors and bits and pieces that we buy, we're going to leave that with the schools, and there's no point us taking that stuff back. That in terms of the business model, that's still going to be finalised. But we would definitely like to see some commercial research occurring. And also, it would be fantastic if we can actually have some ARC linkage grants with industry to apply for more significant funding, and to have research, high degree research students also being involved.
Will there be the ability for the facility to run, to allow apprentices or workers to have exposure to the newer technologies without having a specific project to complete? And will there be courses that have suitable supervision to enable training? I noticed you mentioned a short course earlier, but what would that possibility, I mean, is that a possibility to include apprentices and workers?
So so it's a good point. So currently we have a good relationship with TAFE Illawarra, and so they will ring up quite regularly and say, can we take through a cohort of apprentices through and show them the robots and do some bit of programming. That's been great. So they do get exposure to it, and we show them all that sort of stuff. It's just not formally part of their course, and that's one of the things when I took the Minister Dan team through the facility for intelligent fabrication, where we want to move to. So what we want to do is, yes, people can do the formal study, and there's graduate certificates, and the university hosts a whole heap of things. But what we wanted to do is say, okay, if people want to learn about Industry 4.0, can we do stuff that is basically a micro-credential where they don't have to sit a final exam and all the rest of that, but they can learn about the technology, where we can bring apprentices through. So I've been talking to some senior people at TAFE, and one of the things is, we do want to take apprentices through the Nowra Hub. The problem has been is that TAFE in Bomaderry have moved a lot of their fabrication facilities up to Wollongong, and this has made it very hard for students down the south coast to head up to Wollongong, and actually a lot of them go, oh, I'm not going to do this. So if we can get to a position where we can work better with the TAFE Bomaderry to actually say, okay, because they do hold some short courses at Bomaderry. So the discussions are, can we do some stuff together and actually introduce them to this sort of stuff? Because it's a problem not just for apprentices, but also the Faculty of Engineering. We've been having conversations. Students are leaving with a degree and know nothing about Industry 4.0, and companies are going, they need to know about this. So we're actually talking about revamping the mechatronics degree to have different elements of that.
Okay, so Jeremy Bendel asked that particular question, and that might be, I'm only assuming that he has people that he's thinking about directly. So is it okay if we share your details, Paul?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that'll be great.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is a real aim of what we want to do. We want to, as I said, we want to have a beachhead for engineering and information sciences in Nowra. We don't want to go away. So the whole idea is that people don't have to come up to the Illawarra and other areas. So we've got to hold on to, in my view, we've got to hold on in that area and stay there. This is not a flash in the pan. Thanks for the money. I'm okay, Jack. Pick up and let's go. That's not the intention at all.
Yeah. So you want it to be sustainable and to stay around for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One final question. The launch date. You mentioned a launch date. Is there a particular date that you have in mind?
I wanted to do it in the middle of July, and I did say this at the steering committee when Don was there. My fear is if we do a dud, it's not going to be, it's not going to go down well, and people go, oh. So I need to have the website up and running. I need to have a number of things that are really going to be of interest. I think realistically, it won't be July. I don't think. I think it's probably likely to be probably late August is when we'll be into it. It really going to depend on if we can get some of the key infrastructure into the facility sorted by then. We're pushing it as hard as we can, but there was, there's a number of things that have to be done, and we have to ensure that the safety and the approvals and all of that occurs.
Okay.
But
one final question. What sort of businesses should be making contact with the hub, and what's the best way of them doing that?
So I think the best way at the moment, I'm the point of call, and that's why the website is so vital. But yeah, look, put people in touch with me. In the interim, as I said, the splash page is supposed to go up very shortly. I want to be a broad church. I don't want to just necessarily look at defence or manufacturing, fabrication. I really want this to be across all the spectrum of businesses in the Shoalhaven. So really don't want it to be limiting in that way. And I think when people see some of the technology, they can see that they can apply certain pieces to their businesses. So yeah, the website is going to be vital, especially in the current climate that we've got, where even if we get everything up and running, not physically being able to see things is going to be even more important. And I'm hoping that will be the leverage I can use to extend the project far beyond the current timeline of 21st of June 2021, which is too short.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing all about where the Hub 4.0 is up to and some more details about it. I'm sure there are heaps of questions, but unfortunately we've run out of time. But if I can share your details with SPBA, we might put them up on the SPBA website so that people can contact you individually.
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the meeting's going to cut out in 5 minutes. So Greg Pullen wanted to give an update on who's presenting in a fortnight. So Greg, if you could just share who our next breakfast bites are going to be.
Righto. I think I'm operating here. Righto. Was actually scheduled for today, but then it got moved back. I have I'll do some interviews with Manilda and Flagstaff about a collaboration that happened during the height of the COVID epidemic launch, right at the start of that, and how we've worked into a program and satisfying the needs of industry. And also I intend that I've got a few of them that I've scheduled moving forward, and to look at various aspects of some of the major industries in Nowra and in the Shoalhaven, and also pulling out some of the learnings from the graduates out of the mentor program and the leadership program, and how they've moved on in their business lives and whatever. And I'll talk about expanding into export, some customer service and agribusiness horizons and things like that. So over the next few breakfast bites, there's a number of people that Rhonda and I have been collaborating on to bring to these sessions, and hopefully we'll have those interesting conversations. But the next one will involve Manildra, and that's Ming Leong from Manildra and Roy Rogers from Flagstaff.
Okay, wonderful. All right, well, we've got 1 minute to spare, as I can see. So Anna, did you want to say anything before we finish up?